We have no idea how to work with wood. But we just thought, "Look, we'll do it." We looked at how much it would cost, and we decided it's an experiment. It took us about half a year. We had some shitty surprises. In the first iteration, our sprint goal was to have the beds ready, because the girls, they went to my grandparents, so they would be out of the way. And we had to have the beds ready when they got back. Our velocity was inaccurate. We were a bit overambitious. But it was no problem, because our stakeholders, our kids, they loved it. We built as kind of like a tent using the frames we'd built. And they slept in there for a week. And then the next weekend, by that time we had a bit of an idea what our velocity was, and we managed to finish the beds in one go. A little bug, we forgot to, that at the head of the bed, you should actually have something so that your kids don't fall off the bed, from about 1.70 meters. Yeah, so what did we do? We did what every developer does. We did a quick fix. We took boards of wood and sort of parked them in there. And there were moments when we were really frustrated, and there were moments when we were really worried about what we were doing, but the work itself was fun. And after a year, my girls, they love their beds. And my wife and me, it's really that feeling like, yeah, we pulled it off. And that's feeling. That's that growth mindset. It's about not being afraid to try stuff out. It's something I do now. It's a skill. You can practice it. I try to do something outrageous every year. 2 years ago, I brought a drum set, electronic drum set. I'd never drummed in my life. And I just thought, I'm going to challenge myself. I think I can do it. This year I decided I'm going to build an electric guitar. And you have these sets that you can buy. So the wood is cut and everything. And I'm like, I'm struggling. It's challenging. It's a little bit harder than I expected. That's the fun of it. So does anybody know what flow is? Anybody?
The moment that you think, wow, now I can do all the work in 1 hour. It's going well.
Yes, I'm glad that you said that, because most people will say flow, Kanban, the flow of value through a system. But this is actually what flow means. The flow in Kanban is great, because the value is flowing, but the side effect is it creates that flow in your developers. When the work is flowing nicely through your Kanban system, through your Jira board, that's flow. And this guy, took me weeks of practicing to learn to pronounce his surname. You have to think about the number 6 and cents, the unit of currency. So 6 cent Mihaly. What he said is that flow is the foundation of happiness. If you think about it, if you're watching TV, it's fun, but it's not something that gives you this massive feeling of, wow. Yeah, that's called, he called it pleasure. Pleasure is satisfying your natural needs. He says that what really makes us happy is when we have a challenge and we have the skills to achieve those challenges. That is flow. And if you have developers and you create an environment for them that they're in flow, you get the results. The productivity goes up. You get stubborn, irritating developers who ask silly questions. That's what you want. That's the future. And my job as a Scrum Master, it's not Kanban, it's not Scrum, it's not all these processes. That's completely useless when it comes to flow. My only job is making sure that my developers stay in the flow channel. Yeah, and if my developers can do that without using Scrum and Kanban, I'm fine with it. In fact, I've had teams, I couldn't teach them anything. But every sprint, they got their sprint goal. And the customers were happy. That's what Agile is. So, what John Cleese says, if you want your developers to be productive, give them playtime. My teams, if it's up to me, I'll give them 50% of the time to just fool around. Because it's in that 50% of the time that those crazy ideas happen. That you take a bit of distance from your work and you discover the crazy ideas that are really going to change the system. In fact, I do it myself too. If I want to prepare a speech like this, I go for a run, 10 kilometers. And it's in that run that I'm fully in the flow, and I'm in the feeling of play, that I really come up with all those great ideas. You should try it sometime. So in fact, what we're trying to do is trying to bring people back to that feeling that you had as a kid. So this is my daughter. She was 2.5 years old, and I wanted to do an experiment. My wife wasn't home. It was a good idea. I gave her the hammer. She'd never held a hammer in her life, and a piece of wood and a nail. And I said, can you bang that piece of that nail into that piece of wood? It was a scary experience because she didn't know how to hold the hammer. You can see it in the picture a bit. But it took her 20 minutes. And this is because she was in flow. Yeah, and it's a game. Children are not scared. You dare them with anything, and I'll just go for it. One of the most irritating things I can do to my daughters is to try to explain them how to play a game, how to find the solution for something. Why? Because I'm taking away their opportunity for flow. I'm taking away that pleasure from them. So, and to wrap it up, what are the tools that we have to understand how to do Agile? It's empiricism. That's fundamental, is make visible what you do. Make your work visible. Understand it, measure it. Inspect it, try to measure it. Ask questions, and then adapt it, and make it into a loop. Retrospective, that's the whole idea. It's a loop. It's a loop where we continuously try to improve the way we work. And it's not about being more productive, it's about having more fun. Because if we have more fun, we're more productive. The Scrum values, they're essential. If I, as a Scrum Master, get a question, I have to fix a problem or whatever, I think about the values first. This developer, he's not working properly. We should fire him. That's not respectful. Maybe we should have the courage to have a conversation with him. Maybe we should ask why. And 90% of the time, we find a solution. 90% of the time, the problem is not the person, it's the system. And to finish it off, I leave you with the Agile Manifesto, because the Scrum values are a little bit abstract, well, actually very abstract. Often they're taken as marketing slogans. Agile Manifesto is not much better, but at least it gets a little bit closer to reality. The first one, it's about the people. It's not about the tools. It's not about Kanban. It's not about Scrum. It's about the people. Look at the way they work. Talk to them. Ask them how they want to work. And then start talking about the tools they're going to use, the processes they're going to use. Same thing for working software. Why do we spend so much trying to define what we're going to build? Forget about that. Make it into a game. Start building stuff. If it works, we're there. Then we understand each other. Does that make sense? Hope so. That was my talk. So thanks a lot. And
thank you. Are there any questions?
Show me the photo, the pictures of your bed.
excuse me?
The pictures of the bed you built.
Yeah, I don't know how much time I have left, but I actually have the presentation with me, so if you'd like to see it. I'll look it up, Will. Any other questions?
What do you think about the overhead that Agile working with Scrum brings? So in terms of having to do planning, maybe grooming, retrospective.
Yeah.
Does it become, I know it's not about efficiency, but what are your thoughts on that in general?
I don't know if you guys know Maarten Dalmijn. He's a pretty famous product owner, and he's written a book, and it's called Succeeding with Sprint Goals. And I was walking with him about 2 or 3 years ago, and I was telling him, it's such a challenge to work with sprint goals. So many of those things have to be in place. We have to go have a good refinement. The dailies have to work. It's almost like I never get to the point where we work with sprint goals. And he turned to me and he said, funny, I just start with sprint goals. And that's the answer. If you're a product owner and you can go to a team and you can tell them, this is what I want, and they say, yes, we can deliver, forget about the rest of the stuff. In fact, that's the reason why Scrum is a framework. Framework means, think about a framework that you use to make a building. It's there while the building is being built, but once the building is standing, it's gone. You never see the framework. That's what Scrum is designed for. It's to help people create their own process. And once it's created, get rid of the framework. And I've seen this happen. I've had teams that we don't do any refinement. We do daily Scrums every other day. I had a team where we got rid of the Scrum Master and the product owner because the team was able to do that themselves. So again, it's that Agile manifesto idea. Look at what the people need. Look at the way they work. Maybe they're up to it, and they can actually deliver. I had a team in my previous assignment, and I wrestled for ages trying to teach them to use story points. And in the end, I just gave up and I said, guys, we're not going to do story points anymore. We saved about 2 hours a week, and they used those 2 hours a week to be more productive. Any other questions? How much time do I have?
Not much anymore, but if you want something to show them, then it's okay. Oh, there's another question.
Do you think Agile can be applied to all sorts of organizations?
That's a good question. I actually did Agile with a management team. I've done Agile with HR teams. What I'm doing in this presentation is I'm doing Agile with my family. So these are my daughters, the stakeholders. And this was the room. It was actually her room, so I didn't tell you that during the presentation, but the reason we wanted to add the beds was also to make it so different that it would become their room. This was the design, a complex upfront design. The only reason I did this because I think it's fun to do. I don't know if you can see it, but those are the beds, and we kind of wanted to build a structure there with doors, and there was even going to be a slide. This is my wife. This is us, this is the Sunday before the kids were going to come back. There's quality control. If it keeps me, if it doesn't break with me hanging from it, it's going to be fine with the kids. This is the workaround. We built it. Oh, shit. Bug fix. This is the way it looks now. We built the tables. I look at it now and I think, yes, such a great feeling. And we did it. You would say Scrum, to use story points, velocity. No, but we use sprint goals. Every time we started building, we had a goal for ourselves. We had a retrospective. At the end of the sprint, it's like, shit, man, why didn't we make it again? Or, oh yeah, this went well, but we had sprint review. Yeah, that was the moment we showed the kids what we were doing. That's doing Agile. That's as simple as it is. Any other questions? No? Okay. Thanks a lot. That was fun.
Thank you, Erik. We're going on a short break, like 15 minutes, and then we're going to start with Nick. So, thank you.
I've never felt this way for no one. And I just can't imagine how you could be so okay now that I'm gone. 'Cause you didn't mean what you wrote in that song about me. 'Cause you said forever, now I drive alone past your street. Yeah, you said forever, now I drive alone past your street. I don't know what you've been told, but time is running out, no need to take it slow. I'm stepping to you toe to toe. I should be scared, honey, maybe so. But I ain't worried about it right now. Keeping dreams alive, 1999 heroes. I ain't worried about it right now. Swimming in the floods, dancing on the clouds below. I ain't worried about it. I don't know what you've been told, but time is running out, so spend it like it's gold. I'm living like I'm not zeros. Got no regrets even when I'm broke. Yeah, I'm at my best when I got something I'm wanting to steal. Way too busy for them problems and problems to feel. Yeah, yeah, no stressing, just obsessing with sealing the deal. I take it in and let it go, but I ain't worried about it right now. Keeping dreams alive, 1999 heroes. I ain't worried about it right now. Swimming in the floods, dancing on the clouds below. I ain't worried about it. I ain't worried about it. I ain't worried about it right now. Keeping dreams alive, 1999 heroes. I ain't worried about it right now. Swimming in the floods, dancing on the clouds below. I ain't worried about it. I ain't worried about it. I ain't worried about it. Take a seat, right over there, sat on the stairs, stay or leave. The cabinets are bare and I'm unaware of just how we got into this mess. Got so aggressive, I know we meant all good intentions. So pull me closer, why don't you pull me close? Why don't you come on over, I can't just let you go. Oh baby, why don't you just meet me in the middle? I'm losing my mind just a little. So why don't you just meet me in the middle? In the middle. Baby, why don't you just meet me in the middle? I'm losing my mind just a little. So why don't you just meet me in the middle? In the middle. Oh, take a step back for a minute into the kitchen, floors are wet and taps are still running, dishes are broken. How did we get into this mess? Got so aggressive, I know we meant all good intentions. So pull me closer, why don't you pull me close? Why don't you come on over, I can't just let you go.
Yeah? Check. Hey everyone. Hi everyone. Nice to see you all here. We're going to continue with the second part, which is my presentation about penetration testing. So we're going to dive a little bit into security, cybersecurity, quite a bit more technical and quite a bit more about tooling than the previous talk. But I hope you enjoy it. To get this out of the way, quickly about me, to introduce myself, my name is Wortel. I'm a software consultant and I also do some training and also agile coaching. I have experience in quite a few things like PHP, Symfony, DevOps, Kubernetes, domain-driven design, but also agile. And besides my work in IT, I also work as a reservist in the Dutch Army. I'm a squad leader and an instructor there. And I can actually tell you that the Dutch Army is actually quite a bit agile, but also non-agile, more than you would expect. But that would be a subject for a different talk. So far about me. I'm going to start, as Erik did, with a few questions, just to have a little bit of a feeling about who I have in front of me. So this is for all the developers. Who takes security into account when you are writing or reviewing someone else's software? I see some hands like this. I see some hands going up. Okay. Who of you has ever experienced a security incident with their application? Like being hacked or a data breach or something like this? Quite a few hands as well. Okay. And what types of vulnerabilities or attacks do you guys know? So just shout out if you have some example. SQL injection, yeah? DDoS, all right. Man in the middle. Sorry? Man in the middle. Man in the middle, very nice. Sorry? Yeah, cross-site scripting. All right, cool. I hear quite some interesting things. Some of them we're going to cover, not all of them, because I don't have that much time, but we're going to dive in a few of them. And does everybody have an idea what kind of tools are being used by attackers who perform this kind of attacks? Kali Linux, yeah. Social hacking, yeah. Sorry?
Russian bots.
One more time.
Russian bots.
Russian bots, okay. All right. Vulnerability scans, right? Burp suite, okay, yeah. We have some knowledge here, cool. All right. I actually, because I'm going to do some live demos, so I actually have exactly what's here, so I don't really see my next slide, but yeah, that was the last question. So we're going to talk, I'm going to talk about penetration testing. And penetration testing is, when we are penetration testing, we're looking for vulnerabilities in the code. And that is why I'm going to talk about this perspective, because we're mostly with, I think, developers here, some product owners, but mostly developers. And we build software. But we want to make sure that our software is not vulnerable to attacks. So penetration testing can be done to see if we can find some vulnerabilities before someone else does, so that we can fix them. Important part about this is that it has to be authorized. So we cannot just, I just want to give a word of caution that not everybody gets excited after this talk, and tomorrow everybody is going to hack their own boss's system, and then we're going to be in a lot of trouble. So make sure you have permission before you start doing this kind of techniques against the production system. First thing I want to discuss is Google Docs. Who has ever heard of these? I see one hand. All right, cool, interesting, because if everybody already knew it, it would not be so interesting to explain. So Google Docs are really interesting. It's a little bit like, not a super advanced technique, but it's definitely interesting to discuss, because maybe you've heard of this, like if you're searching in Google, you can use these search operators, right? So you can say site:example.com, which means that I only want to see results that are within that, domain. Same we can do file type to say, okay, I only want to have PDF files or some other file extension. Or I can say specifically, I want to find this in the title of the page or in the content or in the URL of the page, right? And the last one's also interesting. With the dash at the beginning, we can actually say, okay, I want all results that do not contain this word. So this is useful. This is, maybe you already use some of these sometimes when you're using Google. But we can do some fun things with this. For example, here I have a screenshot of Google results. When you're searching for the string not for public release, and it also has to contain confidential, and we want to find either PDFs or doc files or Excel sheets. And we get some 30,000 results of things on the public internet, which apparently should not belong on the public internet. So this is fun, right? But if we're talking more about application development, we want to dive deeper into how can we use this technique to find some interesting things in vulnerable applications. So let's take this one. We are looking for results that contain index of in the title, and they contain either users.yaml, admin.yaml, or config.yaml. So configuration files commonly used for web applications. And we get like 1,000 results of applications which have these files publicly served on the internet, and you can just find them. And these contains passwords and credentials and API keys and whatnot. Yeah, so the point of this is that not always when you are being attacked, an attacker is not always specifically targeting you. They're just looking for sites that are easy to compromise, and if yours is one of them, you're making yourself an easy target. Another example, file type env, and we're looking for the string db password in the text, and I excluded all things that contain blob, because those are usually GitHub results. So here we have a list of websites that have a publicly accessible .env file. Again, containing passwords, API keys, and whatnot. I can go on. It's actually interesting if you want to dive deeper into this. There's actually what is called the Google Hacking Database, which contains a full list of all these kind of search queries to find specific interesting information. Yeah, so these are Google Docs. What can we take away from this? Well, apart from what I already said, it doesn't necessarily need to be that you are being targeted specifically, but attackers can just use this kind of techniques to find any site that is vulnerable. But of course, we want to take away the fact, don't keep your sensitive files in the document root, in the web root. Keep them away from it. With current developments in frameworks that are already by default keeping the stuff out of the web root, it's getting better and better. But still, as you can see, there's still a lot of sites that are vulnerable for this. Disable directory listing. One of the results I just showed was showing pages that show the directory listing with all the files, and you can just find the admin.yaml or whatnot. And regarding the first example, make sure that you enable authorization for documents or files or whatever that should not be publicly visible. All right, next subject is login brute forcing. Who knows what it means?
You just try out all the combinations of username and passwords
Yeah.
and hopefully find one.
Yeah, correct. So let's say we have a website and we want to check if it's vulnerable or not. I created specifically for this a very nice website, because as I said, we shouldn't just be targeting things without permission. So I made something myself, which runs on my laptop, so it will be difficult for someone else to mess with it. Yeah, so we have a nice website containing pictures of dogs, because, of course, dogs are very nice animals, and we don't have to go into the discussion cats versus dogs, so dogs it is. Yeah, so we have a nice website with dogs, and I have a problem with clicking. That's what happens if you do a live demo, right? All right. Give me a second to open it outside of my virtual machine. All right, give me one moment. Yeah, so when we discussed earlier about the tools, actually one of the tools mentioned is Kali Linux. I run it as a virtual machine, but for some reason it works all the time fine, and when I give a live demo during my talk, it breaks down. So it's the it's the thing about live demos, I guess. So here we have the site. Now looking at it from my local machine. Yeah, so we have a nice application about docs. We can click on one of the docs and we see a nice picture. It's amazing. And also we see a login button, and that's of course interesting because then it seems like there's some kind of admin panel with hopefully some juicy things that we can do there. So we want to find out if we can, if we can brute force our way into this admin panel. Because let's guess that there's a user admin, but yeah, we don't know the password. I can try something, but yeah, we want to brute force it, right? So I will try one more time to start Kali Linux again, because all the tools that I'm going to use are tools that are available in Kali Linux by default, right? I'm running Ubuntu on my laptop, so I can also install them on my laptop. But what's the nice thing about Kali is that everything is already there. So we have all the tools available that we want to use, and it makes it quite easy to do this kind of penetration testing. I just closed it down, so now I need to wait a little bit for it to reboot again. And we have the very secure combination of username Kali and password Kali. But at least my mouse is working again, so let's hope, fingers crossed, that it's going to work. There we go. All right. Famous last words. Okay. Right, so about login brute forcing, there's actually a distinction I want to make because I'm talking about brute forcing, but actually what we're going to see is a dictionary attack. So the difference between brute forcing and a dictionary attack is that with brute forcing, really as the name already says, we're really going to brute force our way through all the possible passwords. So we're starting with AAA and then AAB, AAC, etc., etc. It can take a very long time that way to find the actual password that's being used. So what's more useful is to do a dictionary attack, where we have already a list of commonly used passwords, probably coming from previous data leaks, where a whole list of passwords has been leaked, and we can do some statistics to see what are the most commonly used passwords. So by trying the passwords in that order, we have a bigger chance to find it more easily. And the tool that we're going to use for that in Kali Linux is called Hydra. Anybody heard of Hydra? I see one hand, two hands. All right, cool. So we have the tool called Hydra. As I mentioned, it's already installed in Kali Linux. And what we're first going to do is provide the username. In a real situation, of course, we also don't know the username for sure. And we can also use a whole list of username. And then for every username, we're going to try all the passwords. But as much as I would like to give a demo that takes 1 hour waiting for the results, I don't think it's really interesting. So I'm going to give away the fact that the username is admin. So we're going to provide that as a hard-coded, as a fixed value. And then for passwords, we're going to refer to a file which again comes with Kali Linux, which is called the rockyo.txt file, which is a long list of commonly used passwords. And then I'm going to provide the IP address of the application. Again, it's running locally on my laptop, so I'm using an IP address instead of a full domain name. And then we have the fact that yeah, we found this login form, but yeah, unfortunately, my mouse is really not clicking or registering any of the clicks. So I'm going to give you the fact that there's an HTTP login form, which is at the location /login.php. And then we have to provide the HTTP form field names, so that Hydra will know in which elements to pass in the username and password in order to brute force our way. Because basically it's just going to make a lot of HTTP requests to the form, sending post requests with the username and password in it, just as long until it gets some indication that it's logged in successfully. So we're going to say username, which is the name of the field, is going to be admin, as it is a fixed value. And password is, and there we're going to give a placeholder, which is pass. And then, yeah, again, I cannot show it right now, but whenever we log in and the password is not correct, we will get a red error message saying incorrect username or password. So we're going to provide part of this text to Hydra, and basically Hydra is going to try different passwords for as long it's seeing this error message. And once it no longer sees this error message, it knows, okay, so now apparently I'm in. No, because it's not a query string. It's a good question. It's not a query string, but instead it's the information we give to Hydra, which is separated by these columns. So the first part is the endpoint, like /login.php is the URL where it sends all these requests. And after that comes the payload for the post requests, which is the username, and then the username, and then password is our dynamic password. And then again a colon, and then we get this error message that it has to look for. So I was typing incorrect username, because the full message is incorrect username or password. So that is the whole part of the information that we are sending to Hydra, so it knows how to perform the attack. Yeah? Then I have to pass the port number, and I give the -f flag, which basically means, okay, once you found a password that works, you can stop trying. Because if we have a list of usernames and a list of passwords, yeah, maybe we want to find not just one username and password, but we want to find multiple combinations. But again, to not make it a demo of 1 hour, we're going to say, okay, as soon as you find the password, you can stop trying. And there we go. You can actually see the message, please do not use it in military or secret service organizations, so I can only use it in this job, not in my other job. So it will take a bit of time, because now it's trying in the background a lot of different passwords until it finds the right one.
What's the time that's being displayed? 2 o'clock?
Sorry?
The time, it's 2 o'clock.
Where do you see that?
The third line.
Ah, starting at, yeah, that's actually interesting. I guess there's more wrong than just my mouse not clicking at the moment. Still not working, right? No. All right, let me check if I made a typo perhaps, because it should have found it by now. Yeah, definitely something went wrong, but the question is what, right? Is it going to be one of those talks where all the demos go wrong? Because I hope not.
You send the zip, the JZ, or
Sorry?
text file with the passport.
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually a gzipped file, but it works like this. Yeah. Otherwise, it would give an error. All right, now everything has frozen. Okay, I will try to see if I can run it from outside of Kali, because I did prepare it also on my Ubuntu machine just in case something like this would go wrong. Is it readable like this? All right, let's try again the command, but now, of course, I need to rewrite it for the local machine instead of running it from the virtual machine. So again, we have the rocku file, which is in this case a txt file without gzip. Yeah, so again, login.php, username is admin, and password is pass. And by the way, my mouse should be working again, so I can quickly show you. So this is the form. If we try to log in with something that doesn't work, we get this message. So this is what we use in the command. And if we open the developer toolbar, we can see the data that is being sent. Yeah, so we see the form data. I don't know if it's visible in the back of the room, actually. So we have username and password. So those are the names of the fields that we're using. And let's hope it works this time. Yeah, I didn't use the full string, but yeah, just part of the string is enough, and it will try to find this in the response body. So every time it finds this in the response body, it knows that the password is incorrect. And as soon as it works, or it doesn't find it in the response body, it knows that it found the correct password.
Maybe it was case sensitive. You didn't use the capital I in the previous attempt. No. Nee, Hertzijk, ja.
Right, I have a feeling that I messed something up, so let's not wait for it all the time. It's going to be a little bit lame to say like, trust me, but trust me, it used to work. So yeah, I think you get the point. I don't know really where I messed it up, but yeah, the point is that with this kind of tooling, we can make automated requests to a certain login endpoint, whether it is a HTTP post form or another kind of authentication, like basic auth or, for instance, MySQL database authentication. And we can rapidly, automatically try all these kind of passwords and even different usernames to try if we can find a match, which unfortunately didn't happen here, but luckily we have more demos. All right. So apart from the demo falling apart and apart from the lesson, okay, test your demo even more times if you think you'll make it work. What can we take away from this kind of attack, this kind of login brute forcing? One of the most important things is that when you are accepting registrations from users or when you let them change their password, make sure that you enforce the use of a strong password. And by strong, in this case, I mean one that is not known to be compromised in one of those data leaks. Because this kind of word list, like the rockio.txt that I was using, these kind of lists, they originate from previous data leaks where usernames and passwords were being leaked. So you can actually automatically check this when a user is registering at your application to make sure that the password that they are picking is not already compromised before, and therefore the chance that it exists in one of these word lists, in one of these dictionaries, is a lot smaller. So that's definitely an important thing. I see a hand.
I saw in the database that there was like 14 million passwords in the file. How do you deal with the latency? The fact that to validate that takes ages.
Yeah, so it's definitely not the fastest way to try to crack a password. And in the next step, I'm going to look into SQL injection, like downloading the whole database, and then we have it offline, and we can try to crack these passwords a lot faster. But yeah, it's definitely, it can definitely take some time, especially if you, because now I just run it with the default arguments. If you want to avoid detection, you probably don't want to try thousands or hundreds of thousands of attempts within every second. So you probably want to do it a little bit slower to avoid being detected. So it can even take longer. But as long as you start with the most commonly used passwords, there's a good chance that at some point you will hit one.
I meant for the validation, for the enforcing the use of a strong password.
Ah, sorry. So can you repeat one more time the question?
Well, you said that you can use one of those dictionaries.
Yeah.
And you enforce a password which is not compromised. That means that if a user is changing their password, if they fill in a password, you want to check that password against the whole database.
Yeah.
That would take a while. So how do you deal with that for the user experience?
Well, it doesn't have to take so long, and instead of downloading the whole list into your application, you can use something like, has everybody heard of Have I Been Pwned? Have I Been Pwned? The website of Troy Hunt, where you can check actually by entering your email to see if your information comes up in any of those data breaches. But he also has a very useful API where you don't send the whole password there, but you send the first few characters of the hash of the password to the API, and the API will give you some response to from which you can decide whether or not this password is included in one of these data breaches. So it doesn't have to take a very long time, like maximum a second. I think even less than that. And you only have to do it when someone registers on your site or when they try to pick a new password. So the impact on performance is negligible, but it really helps to make sure that people don't have a very weak password, which can easily be cracked by this kind of attack if the person performing the attack prepares it better than I did my demo. Yeah, so enforce the use of the strong passwords. Second, implement second factor authentication, because even if they have a weak password, if they have to prove their if they have to prove themselves with using a second factor, like a YubiKey or a phone with one-time passwords or whatever, then even if the password is correct, they're still not in. Log authentication attempts and failures. As I just mentioned, if you're going to do this kind of attack, you're going to send a lot of requests, which all result in failed authentication attempts before you actually find the correct password. So if you're owning an application or website, you want to monitor that so that at least you are aware of the fact that someone is trying to perform this kind of attack. If you don't do any kind of logging or monitoring, you have no idea that this is even happening. And implement rate limiting, which means if someone is making a lot of attempts to log in and they all fail, at some point you may want to say, okay, wait a moment, wait a few seconds before you can try again, to really slow down this kind of attempt, to make it less interesting to do a login brute forcing on your application. Yeah? All right, next one, SQL injection. It was already mentioned in the beginning. How many people have heard of SQL injection? All right, that's good. A lot of hands. Still, to make sure that we all are on the same page, I want to quickly go through it. So let's say we have this kind of URL. We have example.com/docs, and then we say ID is, and then a certain number. This way we can show dynamic content on the page or on the application, and usually this kind of data comes from a database, right? And usually what happens in the application is we construct a query which is select blah blah from some table where ID is this. The thing here is that this part of the query is trusted data, right? Because we wrote it as developers. But the number here, in this case 16, comes from the user, so it's untrusted data. And by entering something else than a number, the user can manipulate the application or the database into doing something which was not intended by the developers. And that is the vulnerability in SQL injection that we're looking for. So we can do this manually. We can manually try to do a lot of requests to the page with manually crafted parts of queries, but that's going to take a long time. So instead of doing that, we want to use a tool, and in this case, the tool that is commonly used for this is called SQL Map. And again, I'm going to give a demo. So SQL Map, again, it comes out of the box. It comes together with Kali Linux, but since I'm having some problems, I'm running it locally on my Ubuntu machine, where I installed it manually. So SQL Map is really useful. We can start just by pointing it to the location of our application. So again, I need to take into account that I'm now running directly on my machine instead of on the virtual machine. So let's try to point SQL Map to to the home page of our doc portal, doc website. Yeah. So I'm going to run SQL Map. Is it hopefully still visible? So we see that SQL Map is starting to connect to the site. It detects that the site wants to set a cookie. So yeah, let's set the cookie. Now it tries to see if there's some kind of vulnerability that we can exploit. But in the beginning it says, okay, no, on the home page I cannot find anything that I can use to exploit SQL injection vulnerabilities. So it actually gives us the advice to rerun the same command, but with the flag crawl is true, which basically means that it's trying to that it's going to follow all the links on the page until a depth of two deep, and seeing if those pages may be injectable. So let's run it again. Do we want to check the sitemap? No, let's skip that. All right, let's use the default parameters. No. All right, it found one URL. The doc.php question mark ID is 1. Yeah, let's check that one. Yeah, cookie again. MySQL. Okay, interesting. So let's skip the test payloads for other database systems because we already know this is MySQL. Yeah, let's use the default parameters. All right. So now we see that it is actually trying a lot of different SQL injection techniques. Okay, the get parameter ID appears to be injectable. Again, more testing. Okay, blah, blah, blah. ID is vulnerable. Let's not test anything else. All right, do we want to exploit this SQL injection? Yeah, okay. All right, so what it did now, it's actually used, it found the injection by itself, and it used this injection to find some generic information, like the fact that the MySQL version is 5.6 or newer, but it's not really interesting, right? We want to see actually the information in the database. So let's stop crawling all the time, because we know now that the doc.php is vulnerable. So let's type it in manually. And let's find out what is the current database. All right, the database is called database. Well, interesting. Let's see what tables are in the database. Right, it's still not really exciting. We found two tables. There's a dog table, which probably contains all the dogs with their pictures. And there's a user table, and we're actually interested in that because we couldn't find the user credentials with the with the login brute forcing. So let's see. Let's see if we can find the user information by SQL injection. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a dump of all the tables in the in the database that we found. Again, the cookies. All right, so again, it was fetching the columns for the user table, and it found out that possibly in the password column are password hashes. And what's actually interesting is that SQL map actually offers us directly to crack these hashes. It also asks if we want to store the files so we can use it with other tools, but we're not going to do that. And it suggests to do a dictionary attack for cracking the password hashes. So let's try it out. We will not try all the passwords in the dictionary also with suffixes, but we will just use the passwords that are actually in the dictionary. Well, it already cracked one password. That's fast. The admin password was actually admin. I don't know why it took Hydra that long to figure that out. Yeah, so what we can see, it actually finished the process. So we can see that for a few users, we managed to find the plain text password by just going through the dictionary, trying all the passwords in the dictionary against the hashes until we went through all the dictionary. So what we also see is that 2 users, which are Alice and Bob, we actually did not find the plain text password. So probably they used a little bit more secure passwords. But for the other users, we found their passwords using by cracking them offline. And as you can see, it went a lot faster than if we all the time make requests to the application, because now we just have the hashes offline and we can try to crack them a lot faster. So now we've actually dumped the user table. We see the IDs, the email addresses, and their passwords and their usernames. And we cracked the dog table, which was not really that interesting. They're just having some image IDs and they have their names. But at least we can try now to log in as the admin. Yeah, and it works. We don't have some fancy dashboard, but we see that we are logged in as admin. So the password is working. We can try the same for another user. So let's try Judy with the amazing password hunter 2. And it works. Yeah, so this was a very quick demo of SQL Map. Of course, there's a lot more possibilities what it can do. I just wanted to give a quick demo of how we can exploit some very simple or very vulnerable application with SQL injection, and to show you that it can dump the tables and even help you to crack the passwords. So what can we take away from this? Well, knowing how many people raise their hands that they know about SQL injection, I hope this is nothing new, but just in case, yeah, always make sure you use parameterized queries. So make sure that the database knows the difference between the query that you wrote as a developer and which should be safe, should be trusted, and it can separate it from the input given by the user, which should not be trusted. And this way, we can basically resolve all the SQL injection vulnerabilities. On top of that, what is also important in terms of defense in depth, even if you forget to parameterize a query somewhere, make sure you do things like turning off detailed error messages. It was a lot easier in this example for the SQL Map tool because all the error details are visible to the user. So if it creates a request that creates an error, it can get all the information from the database through the error message. All right, the next technique that I want to discuss is the man-in-the-middle attack. I think it was already mentioned when we were when I was asking about what technique we know. So who knows about man-in-the-middle attacks? All right, cool. Like half, okay. All right, so man-in-the-middle attack is when someone is intercepting the traffic between your application and the user or the visitor that is visiting your application. In our example of the dog website, it may not be really so interesting to see which dog someone is looking at, but it can be interesting to actually intercept and change the data by injecting a keylogger or injecting a Bitcoin miner or whatever. And of course, if our application is dealing with a little bit more sensitive information, it's also interesting to listen to what is being sent and to know what kind of data someone is looking at. Yeah, so man in the middle. Who has ever heard of the Wi-Fi pineapple? I see 2 hands. All right, so a Wi-Fi pineapple is actually a very interesting device. It's a device that can pretend to be a different Wi-Fi network. Basically how it works, whenever you have your phone and you have ever visited a public network, one that was not secured by a password, your phone or your laptop or whatever you use, it remembers this network. And whenever you are somewhere and you don't have Wi-Fi connection, your phone is sending out all these small messages saying, hey, I'm looking for this network, for instance, Albert Heijn or Wifi in de trein or whatever you have been connecting to. And it just basically asks to all nearby access points, are you this network? Are you this network? And a normal Wi-Fi or normal Wi-Fi device will only reply yes if it's actually that network. But the Wi-Fi pineapple is programmed in such a way that it just says yes. So it asks, are you Albert Heijn? Yeah, I'm Albert Heijn. And by this way, it tries to trick your device into connecting with it. So this is really useful if you want to, I don't know, sit in a coffee shop or another place or in an office or whatever, and you want to see if people can connect with this device, because once they connect with the device, you can intercept all the traffic and see what is going on there. Anybody remember this headline? I don't know if it's visible in the back. A few years ago. Anybody recognize this? All right, so a few years ago, it actually became in the news that the Dutch Secret Service had caught a few people from the Russian intelligence service that were trying to spy on the Institute for Chemical Weapons, something like this. And what turned out was they had hired a car, they put a Wi-Fi pineapple in the back of the car with some extra batteries and some extra long antennas. They parked it in front of this building of the Chemical Weapons Institution, and they tried to intercept the traffic that was going on there. So they used the Wi-Fi pineapple to do this kind of attack. So that's a very much targeted attack. But of course, as developers, we need to be aware that anywhere in the chain between our application and the final user, anywhere in that chain, someone can try to intercept our traffic. Of course, I wouldn't be saying all of this if I didn't actually have a Wi-Fi pineapple set up in this room. So let's see how many devices actually connected with it. I have to say, the last time I tried it, it turned out to be a little bit less than I expected. So I think nowadays the devices and phones are getting smarter to not connect anymore with this kind of things. So it's a little bit less than I expected, but still we see a few phones that have, or a few devices that have actually connected with the Wi-Fi pineapple, which I have somewhere here. There it is. Yeah, so don't worry, I'm not actually going to abuse this. I'm not going to hack into all your accounts, don't worry. But this is the point. You can actually see the network names. So you can see that actually, as per my example, someone has been in the Dutch trains before and their phone has connected with Wi-Fi in the train, although there's not many trains around here. So this is the point. It's very easy. You probably don't even realize it because your phone does this in the background. You don't explicitly connect with the Wi-Fi in the train, but your phone has connected with it before and tries to connect again. And this way it automatically connects with the Wi-Fi pineapple. I'm not going to try to intercept any traffic, so we will not be seeing that. But theoretically, if someone is connected to this device and then goes to a website which is not secured by HTTPS, all the traffic can be intercepted. So, for instance, session cookies can be stolen, or if you log in a login form, the username and password can be stolen. So this is definitely a good example of why oh, someone woke up and disconnected. And there it is again. So this is why it's important to have a secure connection, because with a secure connection, it becomes, I can still intercept the traffic, but all I can see is encrypted garbage. There's nothing that I can do with it.
It's based on the Wi-Fi networks of your phone that it's picking up.
Yeah, so I can make one pre-configured network. So I think I called it something like gasten. But the whole point is that your phone sends out this kind of these small requests like, are you Wi-Fi in the trein? Are you Wi-Fi in the trein? And this device just says yes, and then you're connected. Sorry? Edudome, yeah. Yeah. So it starts to collect all these names that have ever been requested by devices and then transmits those again. But yeah, the big thing is that it just says yes to this request.
That only works without WPA or something encrypted.
Yeah. Yeah, so if
It should be an open network.
yeah, good point. So if you have indeed an encrypted network, it's a lot more difficult because then I would have to know the password of that network to imitate it. So it works mostly, and you can probably see it now if you grab your phone. You will see a lot of unprotected networks, because those are the ones that are easiest for the Wi-Fi pineapple to imitate. Yeah. So you say if there's a
If it is a public address, but the password is shared,
yeah.
you can still get everybody's.
I have to be honest, I haven't tried it yet, but I think if I indeed know a network and I know the password of that network, then yeah, I could imitate that network, and then people might be tricked into connecting with my device, and they see that that's a secured network in their phone.
But they still get connected to the internet, so they don't notice you're in the middle.
Yeah, yeah, because now as well, that's why this device actually has 3 antennas. I don't know if you can see it in the back, but it has multiple antennas. So one of the antennas is for all the phones to connect to. Another antenna is to actually connect to another Wi-Fi network to actually provide internet access, because otherwise, yeah, your phone will notice immediately that you don't have internet access, and then, yeah, what's the point? And the third antenna, I think, is for some reconnaissance if you want to map out all the Wi-Fi devices in some area. But that's not really being used right now. Yeah, so the main takeaway, as you will already guess, the main takeaway of this man in the middle attacks is the fact that there's, especially in 2023, with things like Let's Encrypt and Acme protocol, there's really not an excuse anymore to not be using HTTPS in your website, even if it's about dog pictures. Yeah, so, but especially if you're building a business critical application, there's no reason to not be encrypting your data. And use things like the HTTP strict transport security header, which basically is a way to tell a browser, from now on, you are only allowed to connect with this application via HTTPS, via an encrypted connection. Because otherwise, even if you have an encrypted connection, but a browser of a victim can still be tricked to use a non-encrypted connection, then we are back where we started. And then a man in the middle can still trick the browser to connect to the wrong server. Yeah, so make sure you have encryption for data in transit. All right, to sum it up, what we discussed, I went through 4 techniques. Of course, there are many more, but there's only so much time to discuss them. So we went through the Google Docs, a very simple way to check for sites that are vulnerable even without targeting a specific victim. We discussed Hydra, which we can use to automate authentication attempts to brute force a password or a username and password for login forms, databases, whatever. SQL map for automated SQL injection. And as you also saw in the demo, it also offers things like cracking the password hashes. And I gave a short demonstration of how you can use a simple device of a little bit more than €100 to perform a man-in-the-middle attack. If you think like, okay, this was interesting, but I want to dive deeper into this, I want to learn more about this, I want to know more about how these techniques work, how I can learn to do a little bit of it myself to at least test if my own applications are secure or not. There's a few resources I want to point you to. First of all is OWASP. OWASP in general is a very interesting resource about security. There's things like the OWASP top 10 security vulnerabilities for web applications. But they also have the web security testing guide, which is basically a good guide for, okay, how can I have a structured approach for penetration testing my own web applications. And what is really interesting is the Hack the Box Academy, which is a platform. Hack the Box itself is a platform which basically exposes a lot of vulnerable servers, so you can try your penetration testing skills against those. And the Hack the Box Academy is a little bit more for if you are beginning with penetration testing and you want to learn the basics first. So they have a lot of interesting courses about Hydra, SQL Map, and lots of other tools. I actually contacted Hack the Box that I was going to give this presentation, and they gave me one free voucher for their platform. So we're going to raffle that at the end of the talk. So if you want to dive more, if you want to dive deeper into it, then yeah, maybe you have a good kickstart. Any questions so far?
How did you get the Wi-Fi?
Sorry?
How did you get the pineapple Wi-Fi? Where did you buy it?
I was going. Yeah, I went to a web shop and I ordered it. And no, it's an American product, so you can order it directly from Hack5, which creates them. But then you have to import it and pay import tax. But there's also a French web store. I think it was called Lab 401 or something like this. And so you can buy it within the EU, and you don't have to worry about import fees. So it's really not expensive. I do have to say, as you mentioned, the list of devices that connected to it was a little bit less than I expected, which is, I think, because, yeah, of course, vendors like Android and Apple, they are not staying idle, so they make sure that devices become better protected against this kind of things. Even in the previous talk, I demoed this. I had someone say like, hey, I got a pop-up from my phone that something fishy is going on. So the effectiveness of it is going down a little bit, but yeah, as you can see, there's still a device is vulnerable for it. So there's still an attack vector there, which can be abused to intercept insecure communication.
Anybody else? No questions.
All right,
Okay.
then thank you for your attention.
Thank you both so much for this evening. Also without the light and some like Wet van Murphy kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's okay, it's okay.
I was already joking. The only thing that's missing is my hoodie, but then I would be this guy with his hoodie only being lit by the light from his screen.
Yes, but we do want to thank you both. We have like a little present for you, and I do want to thank you for your coming. And then there are some drinks, and enjoy the evening. And thank you for being here.
You and me, we made a vow, for better or for worse. I can't believe you let me down, but the proof's in the way it hurts. For months on end, I've had my doubts, denying every tear. I wish this would be over now.
All right, everyone. Before we forget the raffle, who's interested in the voucher for Hack the Box Academy? Right. We're going to do it the old-fashioned way, so that there will be no people saying that I've hacked it or that it has been rigged or whatever. So we have just pieces of paper here with names. I'm just going to grab a random one. Enrique. Do I pronounce it correctly? Enrique?
Nice.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much.
We
What's
will.
your website? I'll try to hack it.
It's a static page, a static site. So go ahead.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we will. If you give me your email, I have a voucher code, and I will.
about the things that we could be. But baby, I've been praying hard. Said no more counting dollars, we'll be counting stars. Yeah, we'll be counting stars. Like a swinging vine, swing my heart across the line. In my face is flashing signs. Seek it out and ye shall find. Old, but I'm not that old. Young, but I'm not that bold. And I don't think the world is sold. I'm just doing what we're told. I feel something so right, doing the wrong thing. And I feel something so wrong, doing the right thing. I could lie, couldn't lie, could lie. Everything that kills me makes me feel alive. I've been losing sleep, dreaming about the things that we could be. Baby, I've been praying hard. Said no more counting dollars, we'll be counting stars. Lately, I've been losing sleep, dreaming about the things that we could be. Baby, I've been praying hard. Said no more counting dollars, we'll be counting stars. Hey. I feel your love and I feel it burn down this river every turn. Hope is our four-letter word. Make that money, watch it burn. Old, but I'm not that old. Young, but I'm not that bold. And I don't think the world is sold. I'm just doing what we're told. And I feel something so wrong. We're doing the right thing. I could lie, couldn't lie, couldn't lie. Everything that drowns me makes me wanna fly. I've been losing sleep, dreaming about the things that we could be. Baby, I've been praying hard. Said no more counting dollars, we'll be counting stars. Lately, I've been losing sleep, dreaming about the things that we could be. But baby, I've been praying hard. Said no more counting dollars, we'll be counting stars. Oh, take that money, watch it burn, sink in the river, the lessons I learned. Take that money, watch it burn, sink in the river, the lessons I learned. Take that money, watch it burn, sink in the river, the lessons I learned. Take that money, watch it burn, sink in the river, the lessons I learned. Everything that kills me makes me feel alive. I've been losing sleep, dreaming about the things that we could be. Baby, I've been praying hard. Said no more counting dollars, we'll be counting stars. Lately, I've been losing sleep, dreaming about the things that we could be. Baby, I've been praying hard. Said no more counting dollars, we'll be counting stars. chill, but you're so hot that I melted. I fell right through the cracks. Now I'm trying to get back. Before the cool done run out, I'll be giving it my bestest, and nothing's gonna stop me but divine intervention. I reckon it's again my turn to win some or learn some, but I won't hesitate no more, no more. It cannot wait. I'm yours. Well, open up your mind and see like me. Open up your plans and damn, you're free. I look into your heart and you'll find love, 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 and love. Listen to the music of the moment, people dance and sing. We're just one big family, and it's our God-forsaken right to be loved, 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 loved. So I won't hesitate no more, no more. It cannot wait. I'm sure there's no need to complicate. Our time is short. This is our fate. I'm yours. But do you want to come on? I scooch on over closer, dear, and I will nibble your ear. I've been spending way too long checking my tongue in the mirror and bending over backwards just to try to see it clearer, but my breath fogged up the glass, and so I drew a new face and I laughed. I guess what I'll be saying is there ain't no better reason to rid yourself of vanities and just go with the seasons. It's what we aim to do. Our name is our virtue, but I won't hesitate no more, no more. It cannot wait. I'm yours. Open up your mind and see like me. Open up your plans and damn, you're free. I look into your heart and you'll find that the sky is yours. So please don't, please don't, please don't. There's no need here to complicate, 'cause our time is short. This is our fate. I'm yours.
I look up from the ground to see your sad and teary eyes. You look away from me and I see there's something you're trying to hide. And I reach for your hand but it's cold. You pull away again and I wonder what's on your mind. And then you say to me you made a dumb mistake. You start to tremble and your voice begins to break. You say the cigarettes on the counter weren't your friends, they were my mates. And I feel the color draining from my face. And my friend said, I know you love her, but it's over, mate. It doesn't matter, put the phone away. It's never easy to walk away. Let her go, it'll be alright. So I still look back at all the messages you'd sent, and I know it wasn't right, but it was fucking with my head. And everything deleted like the past, yeah, it was gone. And when I touched your face, I could tell you're moving on. But it's It's not the fact that you kissed him yesterday, it's the feeling of betrayal that I just can't seem to shake. And everything I know tells me that I should walk away, but I just wanna stay. And my friend said, I know you love her, but it's over, mate. It doesn't matter, put the phone away. It's never easy to walk away. Let her go, it'll be okay. It's gonna hurt for a bit of time. So bottoms up, let's forget tonight. You find another and you'll be just fine. Let her go. Nothing heals the past like time, and they can't steal the love you're born to find. But nothing heals the past like time, and they can't steal the love you're born to find. I know you love her, but it's over, mate. It doesn't matter, put the phone away. It's never easy to walk away. Let her go, it'll be okay. It's gonna hurt for a bit of time. So bottoms up, let's forget tonight. You find another and you'll be just fine. Let her go, it'll be alright. It'll be alright. It'll be alright. It'll be alright. It'll be alright.
Last night, all I think about is you. Don't stop, baby, you come on too. Don't want, baby, think about you. You know that I'm never gonna lose.
Sometimes all I think about is you. Late nights in the middle of June. He waves been faking me out. Can't make you happier now. Sometimes all I think about is you. Late nights in the middle of June. He waves been faking me out. Can't make you happier now. Usually I put something on TV, so we never think about you and me. But today I see our reflections clearly in Hollywood, laying on the screen. You just need a better life than this. You need something I can never give. Fake water all across the road. It's gone now, the night is come. But sometimes all I think about is you. Late nights in the middle of June. He waves been faking me out. Can't make you happier now. You can't fight it, you can't breathe. You say something so loving, but now I gotta let you go. You'll be better off in someone new. I don't wanna be alone. You know it hurts me too. You look so broken when you cry. One more and then I say goodbye. Sometimes all I think about is you. Late nights in the middle of June. He waves been faking me out. Can't make you happier now. Sometimes all I think about is you. Late nights in the middle of June. He waves been faking me out. Can't make you happier now. I just wonder what you're dreaming of when you sleep and smile so comfortable. I just wish that I could give you that look that's perfectly unsaid. Sometimes all I think about is you. Late nights in the middle of June. He waves been faking me out. He waves been faking me out.
Guess it's true, I'm not good at a one-night stand. But I still need love, cause I'm just a man. These nights never seem to go to plan. I don't want you to leave, will you hold my hand? Oh, won't you stay with me? Cause you're all I need. This ain't love, it's clear to see. But darling, stay with me. Why am I so emotional? No, it's not a good look and some self-control. And deep down I know this never works. But you can lay with me so it doesn't hurt. Oh, won't you stay with me? Cause you're all I need. This ain't love, it's clear to see. But darling, stay with me. Oh, won't you stay with me? Cause you're all I need. This ain't love, it's clear to see. But darling, stay with me. Oh, won't you stay with me? Cause you're all I need. This ain't love, it's clear to see. But darling, stay with me. I will not make the same mistakes that you did. I will not let myself cause my heart so much misery. I will not break the way you did. You felt so hard. I've learned the hard way to never let it get that far. Because of you, I never strayed too far from the sidewalk. Because of you, I learned to play on the safe side so I don't get hurt. Because of you, I find it hard to trust not only me but everyone around me. Because of you, I am afraid I lose my way, and it's not too long before you point it out. I cannot cry because I know that's weakness in your eyes. I'm forced to fake a smile, a laugh every day of my life. My heart can't possibly break when it wasn't even whole to start with. Because of you, I never strayed too far from the sidewalk. Because of you, I learned to play on the safe side so I don't get hurt. because of you.